A bit lit, celebrating research and creativity of all kinds.
Our story begins in 1583 in Nantwich. Nantwich is currently A. on fire and B. full of bears. We should explain. See? Fire. And bears. Yes, that's me, Bob the Bear. You're probably wondering how I got here. This is John Sacriston. John is a bear ward and provides bears for sports and entertainment around the area.
Oh, look, it's the bears!
What a clever bear!
Hey!
We perform at fairs, high days and holidays. He worked for many years as the bear ward to the Earl of Derby. He also buys and sells bears as far afield as Bristol.
Can I offer you a bear?
Oh, yes, please.
So John was quite successful. He owned a number of bears who lived in the stable at, by sheer coincidence, the Bear. Which brings us back to the night of the fire. We don't really know how it started, but there were a lot of flammable buildings around. One theory is a mishap in a kitchen, leading to a fire getting out of control.
A kitchen fire was whipped up by a boisterous westerly wind, becoming most terrible and vehement, the worst kind of fire.
Now this puts all of us in a difficult situation. Bears are good at many things, but not locked doors. Keys, I know I just had them.
There goes the blacksmith.
And old Mary's washing just went up.
Yes, but how do we get out?
Thankfully, John came and let us out. Now what happens next depends on if you believe all the anti-bear propaganda, or if you can keep an open mind and understand the relationships between bears and people. So this is where we came in. Argument 1. The defendants, that is the bears, formerly resident at the Bear Inn, did run amok on the night of the fire, causing all sorts of problems, scaring people left, right and centre. Maybe they orchestrated the fire themselves in a desperate bid for freedom. They are accused of being aggressive and violent and generally of a wild and savage nature, and heard to repeatedly growl with rage. Terrified people, unused to this wild animal and force of nature, fainted and ran in terror for their very lives. Meanwhile, Nantwich is still on fire. There is some firefighting going on, but the men claim the women are too afraid to really help.
Whereof the women were so afraid they durst not carry water unless they were accompanied with men having weapons to defend them from the same bears.
Of course, that's what the men would say, as obviously they were not scared at all.
I shall protect you from this amok bear. Actually, is that the time? Run away! Run away!
Or there is argument 2. It is true that the bears were seen about the town in the chaos of the fire. They were released from their lodgings so that they wouldn't die in the fire, although some other animals were not so lucky. But the bears were well known about the town. They lived there, and people would have been used to seeing them around the place. Often, bears were given human names, like Ned of Canterbury, Kate of Kent, George Stone, or Bob.
Morning, Bob.
Good morning, Peter. So there is no evidence they caused any more damage to property or harm to people than the fire. They may have been running amok, but a large fire is scary to anybody, so who can blame them? There is no evidence they set the fire, and maybe they didn't do much to help. And nobody seems to quite know where the bears went afterwards. Maybe they passed into legend, and the many bear stories recorded in neighbouring parishes and across the country, on a scale from the mundane to the magnificent. One example being the one who put his paw on an altar in next-door Knutsford in 1617.
Bear!
So that's the bears explained. Were there any other theories about the fire? Whatever else happened, we're told the fire may have actually been started
through negligence of undiscreet persons brewing.
So maybe it was beers, not bears, that were the problem. Beers, not bears. But you'll be pleased to hear that petitions passed as far afield as Bristol and Bury St Edmunds, raising funds for the rebeautifying of Nantwich. And this is just one of the stories about bears in the early modern period. The bears came out for high days and holidays, and people wanted to see them. Box Office Bears aims to look at the maybe intertwined facets of the human-bear relationship and learn more about these animals, their keepers and audiences. Join us to discover the cultural, economic and ethical contexts that made up a society in which a fire in a 16th century provincial English town can unloose 4 great bears onto the streets, and in which a pub called the Bear Inn did exactly what it said on the sign. The bears are in.